Hi, welcome back to Cooking Healthy in Indian Country. I am your host, Megan Baldy, and I just want to welcome you to our Thanksgiving Day special. I am going to be doing a stuffing for you today. It's not a traditional stuffing, it's a little bit different, and so I'm going to get started with that. First of all, what I'm going to do is I have some sourdough bread, which I got from the local raised food place. And it's just Seattle sourdough bread. It's pretty good sourdough bread. So what I want to do is I'm going to take the bread. I'm going to take about 3 slices. And I preheated my oven over here to 400 degrees. So I'm going to bring you down here. I'm going to chop up my bread. I'm just going to cube it up. It needs to look pretty, but not always the prettiest. So I got some parchment paper here on my baking sheet. I have my oven preheated to 400 degrees, and I'm just going to add in my sourdough bread. And what we're going to do is we're going to make a crouton. So I added 3 pieces because I'm doing a small amount of stuffing just as a demo. But if you are doing a larger amount, I probably would use half of the loaf. I have some olive oil here. I'm just going to drizzle it over the top just to help make it have a toasted browned crouton look. I'm just going to add a little bit of onion salt just to add some depth of flavor. You don't have to use onion salt. You could just use some regular salt or pepper, or just no salt and pepper at all. I'm going to put that in my oven, and I'm going to let that brown for a little bit. I am going to show you the vegetables that I'm going to use today for the building of the inside of the stuffing. What I'm going to be using is some onions and some celery that I chopped up right here. I have a tan oak mushroom, or a matsutake mushroom. It's a mushroom that is indigenous to us here in Hoopa. It grows this time of year during the raining season, and it's a mushroom that is full of vitamin D. It carries protein in it. I've also read that mushrooms are a cancer fighter, so this is a great thing to add to your meal, and it's indigenous. I have a delicata squash. Now squash, this is a winter squash, so it stores really well during the winter time. This is full of potassium. It also carries vitamins A and C, and it's a good squash to add in there. And of course, gotta use the kale. And we know about kale, it has proteins in it, it has omega-3s in it, it's got vitamins A, D, C, E in it. It has iron in it, and also it is really good to add for your food because of calcium. So we're going to add that in. What I'm going to do, the mushroom, and I'm going to start my cooking pan over here. Now this mushroom is called a flower. It's also known as a matsutake mushroom, and they're flowers because they're a lot larger than the buttons or the smaller mushrooms. So, you know, it's just each preference. So if you have buttons at home that you want to add to this recipe, or the flowers, I like to use the flowers in a lot of this extra cooking because it's a lot bigger and you get a lot more out of it. Plus you are able to really flavor up whatever dish you're making. I'm going to put about a tablespoon or 2 tablespoons of olive oil inside of my pan. I'm going to add that in. And this is just the flavor profile that we're building on. I would recommend that if you're making this stuffing recipe that you play with it a little bit and add some sausage to it. Turkey sausage would be a nice healthy sausage to add. And so I think that would be good. It would give it a depth of flavor. So I'm just going to cube this up. And the reason why I want to kind of make it a smaller cube is because this squash is really dense and really tough. And so I want to make sure it's going to cook a little more evenly in the pan. Now this squash came from Spencer Hill at Spencer Hill Small Fruits, and he is part of our Veggie Club supplier, and he sold us this beautiful squash. He actually gave me this beautiful squash to use for demos, and really appreciate him. I'm gonna add that to my frying pan, and I'm gonna start sizzling. So what you wanna do is you just want to just kind of saute all these vegetables and stuff together, because this is the base that you're gonna use for your stuffing to give it some great flavor profiles. So I'm just gonna stir fry that around for a little bit. I'm not gonna add my kale right off the back because I want to add it at a certain time so it's not overly wilty or overly cooked. So I'm just gonna wait just a little bit. I'm gonna check on my bread, which is cooking very nicely in there. And I am going to also, after everything is done, we're gonna add some cranberries into the stuffing. Now these cranberries I got at Ray's Food Place. They were on sale 2 for $4, and they're a great little asset to use and a great flavor profile. Now berries, they carry a lot of antioxidants in them, so this is great to be using. And also they are immune boosters, so we're gonna use some berries too. So I'm gonna go ahead and chop a little bit up of my kale. Now this kale is White Russian kale, and it came from Grady at Greenfire Farms. Thank you very much, Grady. He is great. Him and Spencer are some of my biggest supporters of this project that I work on, Cooking Healthy in Indian Country. If it wasn't for them, you know, I wouldn't be able to bring you such great and beautiful produce every week. So I just really thank them very much. And if you guys have a chance to ever meet them or ever talk to them, definitely say that I appreciate you. I'm gonna cut that up. I'm gonna come over here and I'm gonna stir around. And what I really wanna do is I wanna caramelize these vegetables. So it's gonna take a little bit of time. I'm gonna say about 10 to 15 minutes. But the timing will be perfect, because by the time I'm done with that, we will be on to the croutons in the oven, which are smelling really good right now. Everything's smelling so great. Okay. So while I'm waiting, I am wearing an apron made by Ralphie Peters. He is part of NorCal Native Arts. He gave this to me a long time ago. I wore it on a certain show back a few months ago, but I'm wearing it again. I just wanted to say thank you, Ralphie. I like the community around here in Hoopa. They definitely hooked me up with some beautiful aprons, some beautiful glasswares, a lot of beautiful stuff. We have a lot of talented people here locally. So we're just going to keep caramelizing that. Oh, the matsutake mushrooms, they just have this great aroma, this great depth of flavor. The flavor profile is awesome. So I'm going to bring you into my frying pan over here to show you what I'm doing. Now, as you can see, you got all these beautiful flavors, and they're all joining well together. Now, if you want to add a little bit of salt and pepper to this, I would go for it. I'm just going to add a little bit of pepper to my items. Just a little bit more oil. And now, since it's been brown, I'm going to add a little bit of chicken broth. I picked this chicken broth up at the local Ray's Food Place. I'm going to add that into my dish. And we want to saute this around for a little while we're still waiting for our croutons to finish up. Now this is the time I'm going to add in my kale. So I got my kale. I'm going to add it in. We're just going to stir it around and let it all marinate around together. And we're going to check on our croutons. I'm going to bring you down. They are doing really well. They still got a little bit more time. You really want it to have, we're going to pull it out a little bit so you can see. You really want the croutons to be like These are pretty hard, crunchy. You really want them to have a golden brown texture to them. Like I said, I have my oven on 400. Now I'm going to turn it to a broil. Okay, so we're just stirring up our vegetables. They're in the broth now, and they're smelling really good. I'm going to give you a visual of it. As you can see, you got all those beautiful colors. We got the yellows of the squash, the white of the matsutake or the turnip mushrooms, the green of the kale. It's just beautiful. Plus, the flavor profiles are just going to be so delicious and just building up those flavors. Like I said, if you can add some turkey sausage to it, it would bring in another depth of flavor. So we're just going to let that saute or simmer. And I actually could bring you in. So what you want it to do is have a nice simmer on there. Okay. So I'm going to pull my croutons out because I think they have been in there long enough to brown, which they are nice and golden now, as you can see. And the parchment paper works really well because it keeps it from sticking to the bottom. So I recommend if you can put parchment paper in it to do that. Okay, so I have them in a baking sheet, and I am just going to add my sauce over top of it. Now I'm going to make sure my oven is back off a broil and back on to bake at 350 degrees. And we're going to start that up. And now that we have our vegetables nice and ready, I'm going to bring you over to my countertop. And we're going to show you what we're going to finish doing. So we got the croutons here, and they're all nice and round. We are going to add in the flavors. Just smell so great. I'm going to kind of mix it around, get those all nice and covered to each area. If you don't have enough juice, I'd recommend adding in some more broth just to make sure that it's nice and wet in there. You just want to make sure that everything is nice and moist because you don't want your stuffing to be overly crunchy or overly soggy. So you want to have a good amount of moisture. As you can see, this is all nice and moist. I'm going to add in my cranberries. And I would say I'm going to add in about 1/4 of a cup. Now these are going to pop open inside of the stuffing while it's baking. So they're going to be nice and good. So I'm going to throw this in the oven and I'm going to cook it. All right, let's check on our stuffing. I'm going to pull it out. All my cranberries have popped. It looks so good. We're just going to try a little bit of it. It's going to be hot, so be careful when you're trying out your food. As you can see, got a nice little plate of it. I'm going to try to see if we can get a bite of everything. Be careful, those cranberries are really hot. We're going to try it out. I got a nice little piece of kale, nice crouton, a nice bit of mushroom. I don't want to burn my mouth off, so I'm trying to. All those flavors together are so great. They just burst in your mouth. You get those matsutake mushrooms, the kale, the celery, the delicata. It's so good. So go ahead and try that out. It's a great way to add a lot more vegetables to your family's diet, especially everybody for the Thanksgiving, because we know Thanksgiving is definitely the time when we all like to get all that food and indulge a little, which is fine, but we're going to add a little more to it. So I just want to thank you out there for watching Cooking Healthy in Indian Country. Be sure to like and subscribe to our Facebook page and our YouTube channel. Also, I'd like to thank the programs and the people that make this possible. I would like to thank the Hoop Valley Tribe, the Klamath Trinity Resource Conservation District. I'd like to thank Grady at Green Fire Farm, Spencer Hill at Small Fruits, and I also like to thank you, the viewers, because without you guys, I wouldn't be here. Thank you so much and have a great day. Happy Thanksgiving!